here with Nick Turner, who is the Senior Director of Data Protection Solutions for Dell EMC. Now, Nick, you've been speaking today about cyber recovery. So why is cyber recovery something that's important?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question, because as we all know, the landscape around cyber threats is changing quite significantly at the moment. And over the past 18 months to 2 years, we've seen a change in the type of threats that are coming against companies and organizations around the world. It used to be really that they were going to have some sort of spyware or malware that was phishing for something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they want to try and get hold of data and then maybe do something with that data. But the attack vector is now moving towards destructive attacks. So, you know, you've all probably heard of ransomware as a category. Ransomware is now really being replaced by a destructive malware, and it's a kind of threat vector that hadn't been there before. And so the companies would have to consider things like, what happens if somebody, you know, decrypts and encrypts all my data, completely makes it useless to me, and has no purpose other than hurting my organization. It's a tough place to come back from.
Yeah, it is. How quickly should a company be able to come back from that if they've got the right sort of solution in place?
Well, it depends, obviously, but you know, these things are not necessarily about instant recovery. Like backup and recovery traditionally has often been about recovery point objectives, recovery time objectives. So you could say, yeah, we're going to get this system back within 5 minutes, and you would pretty much know you would be able to do that. This is a very different scenario. You don't necessarily want to rush the recovery from a cyber attack, because you don't want to, if you've got a clean copy of data, let's say, of critical application, you don't want to compromise that or risk that getting compromised by the virus. So it can be a slightly slower process, but obviously it's things like, if your business is a factory, it's a manufacturing company, let's say, like one of our customers was an example of, that being out of production was costing them 15 million euros a day. You don't want to be out of production for more than, let's say, maybe a day or so. So it's probably one of those things where you tolerate being offline for slightly longer to come back clean.
Yeah.
But certainly you're talking about hours and a couple of days rather than days, weeks, months, etc.
And is there a way you know that you've got clean data? What if something's been in your system for a little while? How do you know that you're backing up the right stuff?
So the viruses are more than likely going to transfer into your backup systems. So we advocate an approach called a cyber recovery vault, or a cyber recovery environment, where we move in, or the customer moves in, the business critical data that they want to protect in this isolated vault. So it's very possible that the malware will move into the vault together with some of that data, but that's absolutely fine, because the vault itself is an area, it's a perfectly safe area where nothing can get executed. So, you know, we often say to clients, yeah, you should use the vault to assess your recovery strategy. It's almost like an isolated workbench or some sort of clean room where you can test things out before you relaunch your applications. Most viruses are executable files of some sort, and you would be able to see all the files within the vault and work out which one was likely to be the bad file and make sure it was deleted and isolated before you recover.
I really like that language, talk about it as a vault, because actually something quite technical like this, it can be hard to go and explain that to the board or the business.
Yeah.
Are you finding that companies are understanding this and taking it seriously?
I think they are, and you're right, the sort of image of a bank vault is almost like we're trying to convey to people. This could be a Faraday cage in your data center, a corner of the data center with biometric cameras pointing at it that can only be accessed by maybe one or two people in your organization who have least privilege access control. What we tend to find is that if you go and have the conversation with the backup administrator or the IT manager, they're not really interested. They don't really see this as a business risk. But then again, they wouldn't be the people that would be on the front page of the Financial Times if the company was crippled by a devastating cyber attack. That would be the CEO and or the managing director or so on. So we tend to find that the traditional sort of top-down conversation is the one that you almost need to have to start this one going. And a couple of examples of that. We spoke earlier in the year, we attended Davos World Economic Forum event, and we sent Michael Dell over there to talk to many of the CEOs of of many large organizations around the world. And Michael was very keen on having this conversation together with as many CEOs as he could. What are you doing about cyber risks and cyber security? And he then went on to explain some of these areas where Dell Technologies can help, which then led to some of those CEOs pushing down to their security officers and CIOs, you need to take a look at this. So that's the kind of way sometimes that it can work extremely well as a business level conversation that's taken down to the organization.
And how do companies know, how do CEOs know, I've got good security, I've got something that's good in comparison to my competition?
Well, security is a multifaceted conversation, isn't it? I think we've seen research whereby the average enterprise has something like 97 security products, software products and technologies in their organization. You know, you buy security for different reasons, perimeter security, VPN security, and so on. This is another piece of the jigsaw, but I think the reason why we're getting a lot of traction with this conversation and seeing it resonate is because cyber threats are becoming a lot more severe now, and with that severity increase, you know, we could lose our business. Of course, you have to think differently about the problem. None of those perimeter threat sort of security products are going to help you in the reality when you need to recover the business and the applications and so on. You're back relying on your traditional sort of IT infrastructure at that point, and if it doesn't have the way of getting you back, then you're in trouble. So I think that's really why you have to take a view which encompasses a lot of your different security needs. We at Dell Technologies have, of course, other security parts to our business. We have RSA Security, you probably know all about that, who do more stuff to do with threat detection and response management, that kind of stuff. And we have SecureWorks, which is another Dell Technologies company that is a subscription-based security threat detection sort of service. It will tell you where exposures, threats, and sort of anticipated problems are. So in combination, Dell Technologies can offer a lot of value to clients around the security conversation.
And we're hearing that a lot, you know, like you say, 97 products.
Yeah.
People maybe want one supplier or fewer suppliers. Is that what you're seeing? Is that what CISOs are telling you they want to buy?
Yes, I think that's a fair point. Although because security is such a wide area, I think it would be very difficult to really take that down to one or two vendors. But I do believe you're right that there is a real desire amongst the community that we serve to work with less vendors, fewer vendors. In fact, we see that across the board, whether that's a wider conversation of security. One of the big things we talk about at Dell Technologies is if you're buying your servers, your clients, your laptops, your storage, your networking, if we can serve you all those requirements, then you're going to have a much better relationship and valuable and productive relationship with us than if you work with 4 or 5 other vendors to achieve the same goal.
Now, what do you think the next 12 months are going to bring? What are you projecting?
Well, I'm not a massive security expert, but I think we're going to see something along the lines of the NotPetya virus hit again. That was devastating. It's believed to have cost somewhere between $4 to $8 billion in terms of, and it only affected something like 70 companies around the world. So I think we have to presume an attack like that. The sophistication of these attacks is getting bigger and bigger. So I believe something like that is going to happen again. It may be that it's a completely different set of customers and companies and vertical markets that get exposed. So I think a big thing for us is to keep banging the drum about the threats going to only increase. Therefore, take some proactive positions against that. So that's one thing. I think in terms of the overall awareness of the type of solutions that we're talking about, I think a lot more needs to be done. Government needs to do more, I think. I know that the National Security, what it's called now, National Stats, NSSC or something, they need to do a lot more, in my view, to help small businesses, enterprises and public organisations to take a more proactive stance against the security risks that are out there. I don't think it's widely known or invested in to a sufficient degree.
Okay. Well, that's been really insightful. Thank you so much for coming and speaking with me.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thanks.
Thank you.